welcome. Many of you asked me to speak on this subject involving Malika Andrews and her statement that she made about how she doesn't hate black people and how she felt like she was being, pretty much judged and attacked, and her mental health and her growing up and the things that she went through. She kind of glanced over that, but talked about mostly mental health and things that were pertaining directly to her. But when she started to poke at like the things that was happening to her, she chose to play the victim card, saying some things I might get right, some things I might get wrong, and I'm one of the first persons to say, hey, I could have done that better. Um, I don't understand anything that she just stated here because we never knew anything about you, Malika Andrews. So until these incidents started to happen, black people were the one that were championing for you the most. Professional athletes, everybody. When Maria Taylor was right there with you, and Malika Andrews is this young coming up girl, when ESPN was accused of being so bigoted and old fashioned and the way they treated Jamel Hill and Michael Smith, I said, wow, they look how they treat us there in the office, saying that okay, we're good enough to be on your TV providing sports and entertainment for you, but we're not good enough to be in the studio. That was the message that ESPN was sending out. And the message that they did was to panic and pull somebody who was a beat reporter who barely could cover any sports, had any credentials whatsoever, pull you up. They didn't even check your background for what universities, like stellar universities you came from and your background. None of that mattered. You were chosen because you were brought in by some people that saw you in Portland. Okay. Then I had to dig and tell you, okay, well, let me go more into this to see what's here. And this is why she said that she would clam up when people ask her what high school she went to and everywhere else, because you didn't go to a regular high school. You tried, but those mental institutions that they tried to put you in and everyone else, and normally people like you don't get the job you have. People who come out of mental institutions don't get chosen to work at ESPN or put in a position at ESPN as high up as yours, where you have been in numerous ones and was kicked out of those. You went to this wellness place that's now closed, as the way they were treating people is basically taking everything from them, stripping them down, and letting them basically forage for food. They couldn't eat warm food unless they learned how to make a fire and do it. They have to send you to this wellness place. But we're going to get into all of this. The real reason why you were there, the things you were doing, the so-called fight at the school. We're going to get into this because you tell bits and pieces. And like on this show here, you kind of alluded because, and the only reason this is happening is because you came out doing such an egregious job of pointing out the past incidents on black males to the point where black men don't feel comfortable even really being around you. And Demar Derozan and his mental health issues that he's had in his past, he's using that to mask the fact that he clams up when it's time to win games, and when everything's on the table, he seems to clam up and get frozen and can't perform. Now it's mental health issues I've had since I was a child. Both of these dudes are dudes. Both of these people are playing victims. I'm a victim to my mental health. Because now it's so cool and it's in to be passive aggressive. Passive aggressives lead to everything you can get. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, no, no accountability, no responsibility. It's all let's be passive aggressive here. That's the way to go. I'm not the passive aggressive forgiver. I'm not the passive aggressive apologist. I'm somebody who believes in accountability and responsibility. You're not paid to go on television to tear down the athletes that are providing the entertainment for you to comment on with salaciousness at the wrong time where it's not even warranted. Or are you? Is that your agenda? Because when Maria Taylor left due to some very racist things that was happening behind those scenes, and she left the company to go get her own money, you were brought up and put into the position saying, well, we got another one, let's put her here. And you came in as the quote unquote black woman, to many of us finding out that you rarely had a black connection at all to anybody black. And your father's black, your mom's white, and you wanted to be white like your mom. You were hanging out with white girls. You was a people pleaser, as you said here, and wanted to identify with them. But still, no one knew this about you. So they did not hold this against you because they didn't know. The general public, no one knew. Everybody rooted for you to exceed, that they're giving a young black girl this opportunity. Then we saw what you were doing, and it made you look like an industry plant, that you were just a diversity hire. And that hurts. Being a person of color had to look at another person of color and say, you are a diversity hire. Because that's the way it looks right now, Malika. And you made it look like that. No one else. You did it. No one else but you. And the way you just chose to deliver what you call reporting the news. And it happened in a row. From Joe Mazzulla's incident to the guy in Orlando who used to play for Orlando Magic, his passing. You bring up incidents that he was acquitted for and want to bring that pain back to his family as he died and to nothing of his fault, lost his life. And you want his family, who's grieving just the loss of his life, now they got to hear all this slander and all this stuff, this garbage he was accused of that he was innocent of. But you made it look like it was all connected, as you wanted to smear his name even in his death. Poor taste. Poor taste. It was so horrible and deplicable. It's like, what is she trying to do? You attacked Joe Mazzulla by bringing up stuff way in his past when he was playing ball in college. An incident that happened at college in like his sophomore, junior year at a bar with a girl. And you bring all of this up. And this guy has been in the NBA, he's been coaching for like the past 9-10 years. He's already been in the NBA for years. And you're asking, now, why would the Celtics be looking to give this guy a shot? It's like, what? He has been the assistant coach for the Boston Celtics for the last, I don't know how many odd years. And he's been in the NBA 4 years. What do you mean? Why would they give him the shot? You act like they just hired a guy off the street, like he just had all of these things there. So what was your agenda? You go on Stephen A. show, the M.A. Udoka situation. You wanted to be the voice for this victim of a woman when it takes two to tango. You're protecting the girl who committed adultery in the situation. It wasn't Ime Udoka because he's not married to his fiance, which was Nia Long. He wasn't married to Nia Long. The only person that was married and had a family was that white girl. And they went leaps and bounds to protect her identity. We have to protect this woman as if she was a victim of a crime. And she was the one that was all full for the whole thing, the affair, everything. Then the husband hired a detective and found out what was going on. Now she wants to play victim. You see that? Demar Derozan gets traded out of Toronto because he keeps choking in the NBA Finals, and he gets benched in the fourth quarter by his head coach because he was up for MVP that year and played like a complete scrub, costing the team, scared to shoot, and they get swept by Cleveland. He gets shipped out, and they get Kawhi Leonard in, and they win the NBA championship right away. It was like, if we'd have done this earlier, where would we be? Now, these type of things that are presented in front of the world and for everybody else to see, it never really registers to anybody. It doesn't really register to the people that are at home watching. Y'all never really see it because you never really see the backstories of it. But the breadcrumbs was there that she had a plan and an agenda, and she was going to use that and work it to perfection. And that's what she did. She played victim as long as she could. And then after playing victim and doing all these things, she started to tear down only black men. And we started to notice that when the Josh Giddey situation happened and she was null and quiet and, oh, it's an investigation, it's active, we can't talk about it. So we can't talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about it. Then she gave a 20-second breakdown of Josh Giddey before they went to commercial break. It was like 20-second breakdown about Josh Giddey and the whole investigation. And they said, oh, well, we can't talk about it. It's an open investigation. Stephen A., same thing. We can't talk about it. Open investigation, can't talk about it. Then Von Miller incident happened. They have a whole half-hour segment with the whole round table, everybody talking about, well, we understand it's an open investigation, but here's what I can say. Blah, 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 blah. But you got 30 minutes of bashing Von Miller and saying, you can't put your hands on a woman. That's just it. Can't put your hands on anybody. Period. Anybody. Doesn't have to be a woman. Woman shouldn't be putting her hands on a man either. So this is why we make these videos, to bring the reality back to people. You see, it's all fun and games, and it's okay to tear down, but when you don't have that same energy with people, because you act as if this only happens with people of color in professional sports, when there's plenty of people that's not people of color that have done way worse. You don't dig nothing up on them when they're saying they're getting presented with an MVP award. Oh, well, let's not mention, Bob had a case back in 2009 where he was accused of stealing something out of a grocery store when he was 18 years old. It would look retarded, right? It would look so out of bounds for you to bring that up in that moment, Malika Andrews. But you didn't see it that way. You saw it as a way to get an advantage and land a blow. And you did. The final straw was the NBA draft when Brandon Miller is hugging his family and he's being inducted into the NBA, getting announced, and he's coming into this fraternity that is the NBA, and he's ready to play ball in an incident that didn't didn't have him being charged of anything. You bring up this whole murder case that's happening with his teammate and everything else, and you're blaming this, like not blaming him, but bringing this up on draft day, knowing how hard this has been for him and his family. They're trying to be happy in this moment in time, and you want to bring back hurt and pain to a young Black athlete. And you did not see anything wrong in doing that and saying she's just doing her job. You think that's doing your job? For anybody, Marcus Spears or anybody, y'all think that's doing your job? And your job is pitiful because it seemed to be biased, because we never see this happens with any other person. Y'all didn't do it to Johnny Manziel. You didn't do it to Baker Mayfield, even though right now Johnny Manziel comes back right now. He didn't lose nothing. He's getting millions. They paying him to go on these shows. Getting nothing. I would love to see it happen though. 100%. Yeah, I would love to see that happen. 100%. To see them have the same energy with everybody that they claim that they have. Like we treat everybody fair. No, you don't. And you know it.
For me, all that feeling, that need for something to, it felt like everything was wrong. Yeah. It felt like everything was wrong and I had no words for it. And so I was, but you couldn't see it. Right. If you looked at me, you couldn't see that hurt and that pain and that anger. And so the way that it came out for me was self-harm. It was cutting. It was an eating disorder that maybe I was looking around saying, okay, maybe if you can see this, maybe if you can see the pain that I'm in, then that's my way of asking for help. And so that took me on this sort of journey through a mental institution and an eating disorder residential and wilderness therapy and 2 residential boarding schools, one of which had horses. And so all of that sort of ended up sort of leading me to coping now. But I kind of always say it's not, at least for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, like it's not a after school special. This isn't I went through this when I was a teenager and now look at me and I am perfect. Like there are days that it's hard.
Now, she was touching on her past to try to say, this is what I had to deal with growing up, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I went to all of these mental institutions and other. Anybody who went through what she just said does not get hired at ESPN. I'm sorry. They would have went through a fine-tooth comb to make sure they get you out the way. They're not going to deal with you. Now, here's the problem that you're going to run into collectively in a lot is the future, the past, the present, whatever, right? What you're going to run into is the fact that you have different people with different pledges, different commitments, different assignments, different personalities, just different. And a lot of people are going to feel a certain way about being different. And when you're a people pleaser, like Malika was, she grew up, for you guys who don't know, she grew up in a situation with her parents that many of you don't know anything about. Her problem was that she had a wild streak. She didn't know why she was depressed. why she was different, why her mom's white and she wants to be looking like mom, and she doesn't want to look dark because she thinks she looks ugly because her friends in school that she went to didn't treat her as special. They treated her as if, ugh, like you're not white. So she wanted to be like those white girls. Then she started grabbing and running around and hanging out with a boy and fought with a girl over a boy. She started drinking. She started influencing other girls that she hung out with to drink. She was the cool girl. She was going to drink. This is eighth grade. This is what she was sent home numerous times from school. See, she never goes into those details because this is why you have these mental issues, because you won't face the fear. You won't face the problem. You won't tackle the issues all the way on, Malika Andrews. You're out there sexually active in eighth grade, running off with these boys, sleeping with other kids. And they said, your daughter has a problem. She's drinking, having sex, smoking weed. You were doing everything to get attention, but you didn't want to go down this road. Yeah, this is the sweet, lovable Malika Andrews. Yeah, don't want to tackle these subjects. They put you in mental institution when you're having these violent breakdowns, hating your own sister. You were not pleasant to live around. They had to get you away from your sister. So this is what you guys didn't know that they were facing. The mom had to write a book based on Malika's, the things she went through. And then going to high school, she couldn't. Her whole high school was boarding schools because she kept getting kicked out of these mental institutions. They put her in there for a couple of weeks. She get out of the mental institution because she just couldn't control herself and trying to fit in. She's trying to, people thinking she's fat. She don't want them to think that she's making herself throw up food. She's drinking and she doesn't want her body to be, she wants to look like a white girl. That was her thing. I want to be accepted. And she's mad she doesn't look white like her mom. So with these problems on the horizon, you start to ask yourself, well, damn, if all of this is happening here, why am I doing something different somewhere else? Right? It would only make sense to keep everything moving accordingly. But that's not normally how things work, is it? That is not normally how things work. Doesn't work accordingly to how you want it to work, Malika Andrews. As she goes to Utah, to this wilderness place that we were talking about. And in this wilderness place, they snuck out. Right? She befriended a girl and she had to wear orange because you have to wear orange when you screw up at this wilderness place. See, it's so much stuff y'all don't know about that she didn't tell you. But this wilderness place that is closed down now, and by sending her there, it was like a passage, a rite of passage to go to this place. And when she was there, it was like, okay, um, they moved by a merit system of points. And if you accumulate a lot of points, then you would get benefits to certain degrees and things of that nature. But other than that, she was somebody who suffered from eating disorders because she was afraid to eat food. Yeah, she was ashamed of what was happening to her. But there was a tremendous thing about her is that she always seemed to want the guy that was attached to another woman. And now, in this element, she felt being away from her family, she would find something that would love her the best. So around the end of April, towards the end of the school year, they get to that point where you get into the last couple of months of school, and the school didn't want her back. She was just taking courses at home and sending them in. The family said, "Hey, that's it. We're gonna send you away." So she was on a flight to Vegas. She was in the desert, and she spent 11 weeks in the desert with troubled teens, doing 12 miles per day with a 50-pound backpack on their back, building fires and shelters. They got one roll of toilet paper, and for women, they got 10 tampons. And then they give you dried beans, powdered milk, powdered cheese, dried pasta, rice, and then they give you a pack of tuna and some dried tomatoes and a little thing of brown sugar. Then you had dried oats, you had an apple, you had some oranges. And said, "Hey, look, that's your food for the week." They give you a tarp and some rope, and you have to create a shelter. And if you couldn't build a fire, like I said, you didn't eat hot food. So people, so that they wouldn't, make a run for it, if they wanted to go to the restroom, they had to count to prove that they weren't making a run for it every time they took a step to go out there. So you were so focused on surviving, it didn't leave room for hurt or feeling like you were something else. So this is what the wilderness camp wanted her to do. Find sharp rocks, start cutting, and your problems was gonna all go away when this is over, because you're gonna be so focused on surviving and focusing on what really mattered in life. So after this wilderness, she went to that treatment center in Utah, which was all supposed to be all girls, right? Where she lived for 2 years under strict supervision. If you did positive things, you earned positive points. Well, here's the thing. This guy who dated her was also going to this all-girls school, because they would come there. His girl would go there, and they would sneak out, and they would go to the movies. They would do all these things that they could and then come back. Now, if you did positive things, like I said, they give you points for that. You get demerits. So if you left your socks out in the morning when the room checks came in, that was a negative 2,000 points. There was a family teacher who would get down on her hands and knees and check and the floors and made sure you mopped and you swept. And if she found 6 spots of dust, then you got 2,000 negative points for not doing your chores well. And you could lose privileges like calling home. If your negative points were too high, they call your parents, and your calls were monitored, and she was forbidden for saying she wanted to go home. And it was a very controlling environment out there. And she ran away, but she says she didn't get very far. The teachers ran right after her and got her and all of this. But she doesn't go into details as to why she ran far, right? the reason that she ran far is because she knew where she ran to. She got drunk off of hand sanitizer. They have hand sanitizer there, and she took the hand sanitizer and got her friend to drink it. It's like, it's alcohol. It's just alcohol. You can drink it. It's not a problem. So she's drinking hand sanitizer and getting herself drunk off hand sanitizer. She sneaks out. They go to a movie with her friend when they snuck away and was going to sneak back, and they ran off and got off the property, her and this girl. And the girl's boyfriend, Malika, hit on the boyfriend while they was in the movie, and they got into this big fight. And this is why they weren't friends anymore, because that's what Malika Andrews does. Now, yeah, there's plenty of things I could say, but we'll go back to that, just giving you guys some context on what happened. They got caught and was put back into the to that place, and then they said, we got to kick her out. So she left that place and she went to a new facility. There was another residential treatment school in Utah where she rode horses all the time. And they got tired of Malika Andrews there doing what she wanted to do. And this horse, though, seemed to calm her down. And said, I wasn't abused in these places, but these tactics left a mark. I wouldn't wear the color orange because in one of the institutions that I was in, when you got in trouble, they made you wear orange so people wouldn't talk to you. I was a lost kid, but I wasn't a bad kid. Yes, you were. Little me didn't deserve that. I did deserve help. She resented the institutions, as she said, didn't have my perfect life raft ready. Because that's what she thought. Okay, I'm gonna go here, and it's a one size shoe fits all. But it didn't work out that way, and everything was working out. But the fact that her parents had this love for her, and as she got older, she grew out of most of the silliness. But her love for the horses and things of that gave her something to care about, other than herself and her own selfishness. So when she came home in August of 2012, that was pretty much like a normal rite of passage for teens. And those lives from 14 to 18 felt like the world had moved around and moved without her. Her little sister Kendra had grown up after those 4.5 years. She was going out and getting ready for prom and going to do all these things. And she's missed out on all those things by being gone. And now Kendra works at ESPN as a reporter. And she was the strong one in the family. So looking over these issues and looking over the things she's done and being put in a position where she is now, you see all of the stuff that she's going through. Right. It just shows you that when she was at the University of Portland, she was failing once again. And every time she's not doing work or whatever, she looks for an escape and plays a victim. She's using her mental, oh, my mind is messing up after she comes back, right? And then all of a sudden, they trying to tell her, relax, calm down. And they said, well, the doctor said you're medically unstable, so you need to get treatment. But she didn't want to. She didn't want to miss more of her life. She felt like she was already doing so many normal things that she never got to do. And other times, there's so many normal things I never got a chance to do. And she didn't want to harm her family, who put her through so much worry and all of this. So her relationship with food is not perfect. It's something I have to actively care for. But I was relapsing and I had an eating disorder. I lost 40 pounds after purging like multiple times a day and ending up in EKG and going to the doctors. And she only would do this when she has to take a test or study or something important comes up. All of a sudden, here comes these lapses and oh my God, I need to go into therapy. I'm failing. And oh my God, now it's my eating disorder. It's always an out. It's always an out for Malika Andrews. Always remember that. It's someone else's fault, not mine. No accountability whatsoever. So her and Demar, similar. And it's right that these two are having dinner. I don't even know where McMenamin fits in at.
Let's go against everything he's saying. That don't make sense. Now everybody else become a reporter in real time.
Yeah.
Whether if it's picking up their phone saying, "Oh, this," she said this, and it's like, it's like it's such a.
No, I
feel like
hear
it's
you.
a lose in a sense.
I mean, I hope that, like, I try very hard to make it so that the things that I've experienced, I try to keep that in mind when I'm talking about players, right? I try to have that empathy
For sure.
and understand that I have a job to do, but also understand, like, I'm not here to play gotcha.
For sure.
I say you've heard me say this before. I always say, I want to be two things. I want to be accurate and I want to be fair.
For sure. Yep.
And if I'm not one of those two things, you might not always like me, but this is my number. Please call me. And people have called and they've said that. And I say that oftentimes to before, especially before.
Well, where your number? Because I want to call your ass. Cuss you out.
I'm talking to folks about something that is sensitive or tough because these things come up. And it is hurtful. Like I think that's okay to say sometimes. And it hurts. Even it doesn't matter if it is someone who is credible or someone with a big platform, or if it's someone in their mom's basement just firing off a post. Sometimes it is hurtful when that seeps through, particularly for me when it's not true.
Right.
And that's been the hardest part for
me. It's
sometimes.
not true. It's not true. What's not true? Please tell us what's not true, Malika. Please tell us what part of anything we said that isn't true. You wasn't sleeping with people in 8th grade. You wasn't getting drunk, hanging out with what part ain't true? Please tell us what part ain't true. Face your fears.
Is stomaching the falsehoods, particularly, this you hate black men or think that couldn't be farther from the truth, and using my family or the way that my family looks as some sort of evidence of that. And that is just untrue.
For sure.
And it's just unkind. And, we all have jobs to do and we do our best. I try to do my best to show up every day in a way that you guys know what I'm about. And that doesn't mean that I've covered every story perfectly. It doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes, but I think I'm pretty good at saying to you guys in particular, could have been better there.
No question.
And that's, I think, what I hope we can keep as social media continues to be bigger in the world, that kindness and that humanity that I worry sometimes we're losing.
We're losing kindness and humanity. What was kind about what you did with Brandon Miller? What was kind what you did to that player from Orlando who lost his life and his parents had to deal with that? Where was your kindness then? Where was your kindness to Joe Mazzulla and his family when you're bringing up things Wade that has no recollection for it. I can see if that was with recent events, you're going way back in somebody's past that has nothing to do with the fact at hand. Nothing. Bringing up any incidents that player in Orlando went through who passed away, why would you even bring that up? I don't see that as kind. I didn't see that as kind to his family that survived. That's the part that gets me, is that you had the opportunity to do right and chose to do the latter. Adrian Payne, I think that was his name, if I'm not mistaken. He tragically lost his life. Everybody's heartbroken over it. And Kayla Jones has spoke out and said, this breaks everybody's heart. And we just want to focus on his life that he lived, but this was heartbreaking. And the guy was, on a first-degree murder warrant. Tom Izzo put out a statement from Michigan State about Adrian Payne. And everybody around him knew what was what. They all said this is a sad day. And he was loved by his teammates, and the guy was murdered. They said nothing but kind things about him. Michigan State, the Orlando Magic, everybody had kind words to say about this man. The Orlando Magic did not bring up anything with him. And he was somebody who was a two-way player. A two-way player that played in the NBA. But yet and still, they mention him in high regards. You were the only person that chose to not be kind. To Ime Udoka, you chose to not be kind. With Joe Mazzulla, you chose to not be kind. To Brandon Miller, you chose not to be kind. So when kindness don't work, what's happening then? Give your number to Brandon Miller, Adrian Payne's family, Joe Mazzulla's family, and let's see you give it to, well, I'm quite sure Udoka don't want your number, but still, go have a conversation with them. Because see, I know why this whole interview, this whole thing was taking place, and why you're trying to do this, because this is damage control for you. That's what you're doing. This is damage control. And it don't work with me. None of this works with me. Because I know why you're doing this. You see, here's what you don't understand. Malika Andrews, they wanted to do an interview with Ime Udoka, and he declined the interview that they were going to do with him because he was not going to interview with Malika Andrews. See, I know that went down. This was last year. So I know it went down. And she was afraid. You were afraid to do your damn job, woman. You, Miss, I'm so brave and all this mental health. You were afraid to do the interview with M.A. Udoka. You was afraid to when they was going to do that interview and sit down with him, you were afraid. And Dave McMenamin says he would interview him, but he turned down the whole thing anyway. He didn't want nothing to do with you. And you know why. You created the situation that you're sitting here saying you're victimized about. So what narrative about your family that we created? So this whole thing of you don't like black people was created by you, because the people that you seem to be attacking were people of color. And then when white people do something like Josh Giddey, we got to handle it with delicacy and kid gloves. It's not the same energy. And people will sit back and wait to see how you handle situations based on your pattern of behavior. And we've seen this happen with black athletes, from Kyrie Irving to Kevin Durant to all of them. They've seen it. So they don't trust you guys at all. So yes, the guy that's sitting at home in his basement that's spewing off me, I know what you were talking about, and talking about it isn't true and all that. Thanks for letting me know that you've seen my video, by the way, and you know it's true. That's why you're saying it hurts. Oh, it hurts because the truth hurts. The truth hurts. Lies you brush off, but the truth hurts because it cuts like a knife. You don't face your past. And because your past is projecting your entire future, your mother wrote the book saying that you often came up to her asking and crying hysterically because you didn't look like her. You wanted to look like mom. You wanted to look white because of the pressures that you were going through at school. So that came from your mother's book. Okay, so you could say that lies and lies about my family. What are the lies? Please tell us, what lies did we tell, Malika? You can take a link, you can email me, you can come right up here, and we will have this conversation. And we'll talk about real mental health. Because how's that doing any help for all those other people mental when you sit there and berate and bring up all these negative things that were kicked out and thrown out without any investigation whatsoever? As if you're the face of social justice when you're doing social misjustice. So that's all I got to say about her. And hopefully nobody's fooled by this. Demar Derozan, stop being a pussy and start being able to stomach when the rubber meets the road in those pressure situations, or just retire. You know, nobody wants to hear how you the victim and they got rid of me and then I gotta go and you gotta go through everything everybody else in the league gotta go through. Yes, you will be traded if you screwing up. How about this? Don't screw up and they won't trade you. Start producing, get better. Mentally, get better. Get help, get stronger. Nobody has time for weakness. Kobe Bryant was like that. Like, y'all through with this mushy, we got a game to play. Exactly. So I'm out, man. I want to say thank you to everybody out there. Don't forget to follow my Patreon. The Patreon version will be a lot shorter and a lot to the point. I think you're going to like it. It's just going to take a while to swing at it. You're going to like it. We're going to go into a little bit more that I left out of here to be kind to you, Malika Andrews. We want to be kind. This is the kindness interview or the kindness video. We'll see what happens next. All right. Shouts out to Kwame Brown, Bus Life. Welcome to HDII TV Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez. And I'm